With Once Upon a Time in Hollywood finally coming out in the UK on Wednesday, today was the perfect day for me to sit down and finally watch Pulp Fiction for the very first time. And yeah, the film is every bit as great as I've heard it is. Now, when it comes to non-linear storytelling, I tend to tread a little bit carefully because under the hands of a bad director and a bad screenplay, it can come across as boring, plotless, and you just want the film to get to the point already. But with Pulp Fiction, none of that was the case for me. And it all comes down to Quentin Tarantino. This guy just knows how to engage you and captivate you strictly with dialogue. Tarantino dialogue is easily the best dialogue that I've ever experienced in a film. It's just so electrifying, the way it's written and the way it's performed by the actors. The way Tarantino directs the actors and gets the performances out of the actors. I could just sit there and watch John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson talk about whether a foot massage means anything, whether a pig is a dirty animal, or whether the bullets hitting the wall behind them is an act of God. I could watch them go on about that stuff literally for hours and be thoroughly entertained, because Tarantino just does it so incredibly well. Pulp Fiction is just a great example of Tarantino once again being the master of his craft. And the non-linear storytelling really worked for me as well. Reservoir Dogs, I watched that for the first time recently because it also does the non-linear storytelling. Really enjoyed it in there. I loved it even more in here. I love seeing the characters interact with each other. I love seeing the characters crossing between each other's storylines. It starts off with John Travolta and Samuel Jackson going to see that guy in the apartment. The infamous scene with Samuel Jackson doing the Bible verse. That was amazing. And then you go to Bruce Willis and you see different points of view for each characters and how it jumps back and forth. It's just so well done and so well orchestrated that it never once bored me, it never once threw me off guard. Well, it caught me off guard, but in the good way. Like the scene when Bruce Willis kills John Travolta, spoiler alert, but you've all seen it. I'm the last person on earth to see this film, so you've all seen it, it doesn't matter. But when Bruce Willis kills John Travolta, I was like, okay, John Travolta's dead now, that's great. And then it goes back to Samuel Jackson and John Travolta just after that scene in the apartment, and John Travolta accidentally killing that guy in the back of the car. I burst out laughing at that part. That was just so incredibly funny. The point that I'm trying to make is that this is probably the best use of non-linear storytelling that I've ever seen in a film, and this is the benchmark for how to do non-linear storytelling and not make it confusing or boring or pointless or plotless. And I found myself interested in all the characters in their storylines, because when you have different characters and different storylines bouncing across each other, sometimes you are bound to kind of be bored with one storyline and engage in another one. But with all three characters like Samuel Jackson, John Travolta and Bruce Willis, they're the three main characters, I was interested in all of them. Bruce Willis was probably my least favourite one out of the three, but I was still interested in it. And that scene in the shop with the gimp in the box, bizarre but hilarious. It kind of reminded me of like a GTA cutscene or something. Just so weird and bizarre, but I loved it. And it just fits that Tarantino tone. The biggest conflict I have with myself with Pulp Fiction is what is my favourite scene. The Samuel Jackson, John Travolta apartment scene with Samuel Jackson doing the Bible verse, or Samuel Jackson and Tim Roth in the diner at the very end, because that monologue that he gives to Tim Roth is so good, so well acted, so well written, so well delivered, so well directed. I can't decide which one's my favourite scene, but they're both amazing, and the film itself is amazing. I'm really glad that I finally sat down and watched it. Is it my favourite Tarantino film? Not quite sure just yet. It's between this and Django Unchained for me, but the fact that Pulp Fiction is even in the conversation, that's good enough for me. I'm going to give Pulp Fiction a 5 out of 5. Thanks for watching as always, guys. Let me know your thoughts on Pulp Fiction down below, because I know you've already seen it. And do you want to see more of these first time watch videos? Because I've still got a big pile of films over there that I'm waiting to watch, classic films that I still haven't seen. And if you want to see more of these videos, let me know. But in the meantime, if you want to see some more of my stuff, click on one of these in a second, and I'll see you all next time.